keep the phone on.
Okay. So, good morning, everybody. It is Saturday, what is it? What's the date today? Is it the 2nd? Saturday, the 2nd of January 2021. And, well, what do we do? How many of you out there made your New Year's resolutions? Do we do them on New Year's Eve, or do we do them on New Year's Day? I simply can't remember. But anyway, at some point, so many people are making those New Year's resolutions as to what they're going to be doing coming the following year. So first of all, before we begin this show, let's say first of all, good morning to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who as always is standing to my right side. And I'd also like to say good morning to Chris, who is on with us. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year.
And if you're wondering if there is an echo anywhere, I have Chris on my phone and we're doing this show on my iPad, but we've lost the sound on the iPad, so we have no idea what we're doing. But let us know if you're having trouble hearing us, or if you're having a trouble or a struggle with what's going on. So, all right. So that said, Happy New Year, Chris. And how are your New Year plans going?
I really didn't have a whole lot of plans. I'm still helping out the state with delivering COVID supplies, so that's taking a lot of my time.
Okay, you didn't make any New Year's resolutions?
Oh, I reviewed what we had done on our ambition board earlier this year to see if I wanted to change anything. And of course, we all have new things that we want to do. So I am really excited about the class that you're teaching on Thursday.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yes. For all of you out there, actually, Chris, is there anybody out there? I love saying that.
There is.
I love saying that phrase. You know, you have the medium who sits with in the dark room. Everybody's sitting, hands around the table, fingertips touching, and the medium in this trance state says, in this sort of mysterious voice, is there anybody there? And that's supposed to get everybody in the spirit world excited. I love saying the line, but I know that there are people there. Don't have to ask, and by saying is there anybody there does not mean that they're paying attention to us. You don't need that phrase, but I still like saying it anyway. So we do have people, right, Chris? We do have people out there. So good morning, everybody. And yes, and a happy New Year, as I've said. You know, Chris, we were talking, you and I, about the Ambitions Board. And in fact, to give Chris the absolute credit for this, it was Chris who suggested that some of you might like to know, first of all, what is an Ambitions Board, and second of all, how do we get one going, and what is it supposed to do for us, and a multitude of other questions along with it. So we thought we would do a spur of the moment little lesson for everybody. We've made it very affordable. You do have to understand that we do have to, every time we do our shows, we have people to pay. We have, who do we have to pay, Chris? We have Eventbrite to pay, and we have Zoom to pay, and unfortunately I have Chris to pay. And so we do have to charge something. And we do enough of the free shows, as today is a free show. We do enough of the free shows that we feel comfortable about charging. But with our Ambitions Board, I wanted to absolutely make it affordable for as many people as possible. So we put the rate at $25. Are we doing 2 of them on Thursday, Chris? Or can you tell us a bit about it? What we're doing?
Absolutely, and I will also put it into the chat room.
Great.
So on January 7th,
which is this coming Thursday.
Right. Rosemary has a class called It's a New Year and a New You, Power Up Your Resolutions. She has 2 live events, one at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and one at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's going to help people in different time zones.
Yeah, we wanted to make it sort of accessible because when we do the later show, the 7 p.m. show, everyone in Europe is sort of hopefully in bed and snoozing and sound asleep. So we thought if we did a 2 o'clock one, it would be what would it be in England? It would be 7 p.m., which is not so late, so easily available to them. And we thought we'd do another one at 7, which is easily available to pretty much anybody and everybody who is in the United States. So we're trying to, and it was just, we just did an off the cuff, spur of the moment little thing, because Chris actually started out by saying to me, you know, what about doing something with the ambitions board? And I know I've not told you what it is yet, have I? But I will, I'll get there. But usually around this time of year, when we're taking stock of our life, when we're taking stock of the past year, and when we're taking stock of what we want for the future, we make our New Year's resolutions, and most of us do that. Well, it's a fun thing to do, isn't it? I'm not going to drink anymore, and then on New Year's Eve you say, this is the last drink I'm going to have for 12 months, and then of course New Year's Day arrives and friends come to celebrate the New Year's Day, and bingo, your resolution is broken. And so we do try very hard to make our New Year's resolutions and to keep them, but it's very, very difficult to keep them, especially those resolutions that we feel a little bit hopeless or helpless about. For instance, the New Year's resolution is I'm going to get a new job, or I'm going to make my marriage work, or I'm going to I want a relationship this year, a meaningful relationship this year, or I'm going to get my kids into college, whatever those resolutions might be. And, so I have a little system in place, which for those of you who are joining me on Thursday, I think tickets, we made them as affordable and as available as we possibly could, $25, and we'll be on for 2 hours. And I'm going to show you, I'm actually going to get my grandson to make an ambitions board. Yes, you can do it with your children, and it teaches your children a great many things. We'll talk about that on Thursday. So you can actually do this with your children, encourage your children to do this, but it's also something that I think everyone who really, really wants to improve their lives, change their lives with improvement, and to sort of really make a difference, we can, using this system, really, really make a huge difference in our lives. And I think it really, really works very well. In fact, I have not had anyone who's done it and done as they were instructed to do. I've not had anyone who's been disappointed with the ambitions board, and it really can change your life and make a huge, huge difference in what's going on in your future, what is going on with your life. And all of us feel so helpless so often, don't we, not being able to change things, but we can. With our ambitions board, we can actually change things. We really can make a difference and somewhat be in control of our destiny, as much as we can be anyway. Oh golly, right. Do you want to say any more, Chris? Because I know you've done this 2 or 3 times over the years that I've known you.
Well, I think the big question that most people end up having is, how is this different than what is traditionally thought of for doing resolutions? Just thinking up something and writing it down on a piece of paper. And I will tell you that the way Rosemary makes you think about what you're going to put on the paper is entirely different than you've ever done before.
Yeah, and it's not just writing things down on a piece of paper either. We're going to have our conscious mind in play. We're going to have our subconscious mind in play. We're going to, as we write the ambitions board, we're going to raise our level of consciousness. And what does that all mean anyway? Well, join me on Thursday. It's very affordable for most of you. If you really want to join and you really, really are struggling to find that $25, if you'd like to email Chris at rosemaryaltea.com and tell us your story, I'm sure that we can do something to help you out. because we do like people to be involved, and we don't want to cut everybody out of the situation. That doesn't mean you can all sit there and think, oh gosh, this is free. Oh yes, I'll join, because it isn't. But if you are a person who is really, really struggling and you feel that you need this, but you cannot afford the $25, please again email us, chris@rosemaryaltea.com, and we'll take a look at your situation. But you got to do it soon, because hey, Thursday is just around the corner. Are we crazy for doing this, Chris? So without any notice, any warning whatsoever? I don't care if there's only one person who buys a ticket, because obviously that one person might need something, and then you get, so we haven't given ourselves any time to promote this. We haven't given ourselves any time, any warning. We haven't given you out there any warning. And so anyway, we'll just see how it goes, and watch what happens. Right, Chris? Is there anything more you want to say about that? Because after all, it's story time,
I just want to say, I know people are having a hard time hearing me. So if I give you a question, you might have to repeat it back so everyone can hear.
Oh, okay. All right. So people can't hear you?
They can barely hear me.
Oh, shall we get off the phone and try it that way, and then we'll get back on if you can't hear me? Do you want to do that? Shall we try that?
We can.
Okay, let's get off the phone then. Right then. So let's see. Can you hear me, Chris? And I can hear nothing. Nothing. I wonder if I am supposed to do something that I didn't do, because this is extremely unusual for Chris not to hear me. I'm afraid I'm going to have to go back off on the phone. Maybe people can hear you more clearly, but if I can't hear you, there's no show. So let's try again.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay. Well, I couldn't hear you. I couldn't hear a thing.
Okay, well, I think people can hear me. I'm understandable, but very soft.
Okay, so, all right. So keep our fingers crossed then. If there are any other problems, I know that all of you out there are going to let us know. So, all right, are we going to begin? Yes, let's begin. So, as with all good stories, once upon a time, many years ago, when my daughter was maybe 10, 11, 12, something like that, she started having some absolutely strange encounters. She said strange things would happen, strange things would go on with her. Now, since being very small, she's heard those in the spirit world. Since she can remember, my father, her great, wait a minute, yes, great, no. Let's do this again. My father, her great grandfather, her silly grandpa, he died when she was 6 years old. Will I get it together this morning, do you think? Right, he died or passed when she was 6 years old. And she knew him very, very well. And she had a brilliant relationship with him, a really, really great relationship with him. And when she was, I'm going to say, 8 or 9-ish or thereabouts, I can remember her coming racing into me. Well, first of all, I heard a scream. And then I was in my bedroom and she was on the upstairs hallway, and I heard a scream, and as I ran towards her, she ran towards me and dove into the bedroom, puffing and panting, excited, not terrified, excited that she'd just seen silly grandpa. I've just seen silly grandpa. He was He was in the hallway, Mama. He was in the hallway. I've just seen Silly Grandpa. And so I sat her down, and she looked a little bit white around the gills because it was a shock initially for her to see. But I sat her down, and she told me all about it. And she told me that she came out of her bedroom. And as she came out of her bedroom, she practically bumped into him. And of course, she knew him. She knew him very, very well. So there was no doubt that she'd seen him, and no doubt that he'd been there. And all you had to do was look at her face to know that it wasn't something that she'd just made up. And now, as we've gone along over the last few days, many of you know that my darling boy, my grandson Reese, has also been really poorly. He got a spider bite that turned, I don't know what it turned. It turned nasty. His entire leg from his knee to his ankle was swollen, bright red. We had to take him to the hospital. He developed an abscess. He's still on antibiotics, but it's a dangerous situation. Apparently, we didn't realize how dangerous it was, because when you get all of that poison in your body and it starts to affect you, and you start having, serious response to it, then you need to pay attention. And so that's what we were doing. Anyway, as we were going along, I was giving Reese some healing, and some of you on last Thursday, heard me singing the Rainbow Song, and I explained that with children especially, we use the Rainbow Song with healing. So of course my first thought was to say to Reese, would you like some rainbows? And we think about the colours and the different types of energy that each colour brings, and so on. And as we were giving healing, he looked at me, he's wide-eyed, he said, Mosey, Piper's here. And I looked, and sure enough, his puppy, who had passed a year ago, was in the room with us, and obviously trying to give Reese some comfort and some help, and so on and so forth. Can children see? Can they really see? And if they see, what do we do about it? How do we deal with it? So back to many years ago, when my daughter was sort of between 8 and 10 years old, and she started having all of these weird experiences, and I would put her to bed, and we'd always have a story time, and it's another one. There's always story time, and then she'd go to sleep, and we always we had this little thing that we would say, and I would say to her, "Do you love me, or do you not? You told me once, and I forgot." And she would say yes. I would say, "How much?" And she'd say 99. Now, when she was 3 or something, that was the biggest, 2 or 3, that was the biggest number she could imagine. And then it was 99 and 1, and it became a thing. And now my daughter says this with her son also, "Do you love me, or do you not? You told me once, and I forgot." So my idea of telling you all of this is that when I put my daughter to bed, there was a lot of love, there was a lot of communication, there was a lot of beautiful stuff going on, and I would snuggle her down to bed and give her a kiss, and go downstairs. But as she got into her between 8 and 10 years old, I would be halfway down the stairs, and she'd start screaming and screaming, "Mummy, mummy, mummy, the bed is shaking, the bed is shaking." And I'd turn around and race upstairs, and sure enough, I'd be in time to see the bed, and I would actually see the bed vibrating, and she would be sitting up, holding onto the bedclothes really, really tightly, absolutely terrified because the bed was shaking so hard. Now, I would talk to her, and I also talked to them. You need to stop this, because I'm not having it. I'm not going to have her scared. So, if you want to communicate, you need to find a different way. But sometimes those in the spirit world don't quite get it. And all they're doing is they're bringing their energy around us because they want us to know that they're there. I'm sure my father had a great deal to do with the vibrating bed, not realizing that he was scaring the pants off of his granddaughter. But those in the spirit world don't always realize the effect that they have, or they don't always realize that their energy can be so powerful and it can be so strong that it can really affect us who are left here behind. It can affect us in a very physical way. So several times I would actually have to go back upstairs, stop the bed thing going on, and speak sternly to those in the spirit world and say, no, 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 this is not, you're not doing this. And eventually, when you start to talk to the spirit world and you say, look, what you're doing is scaring them, so you need to find another way to let us know that you're around. And if you start to communicate with them, talk with them, even if you can't hear them, even if you can't see them, if you talk to them and communicate with them, they do hear you. And if you sort of hammer it home a little bit, and sometimes you have to really hammer it home, you cannot do that. You can do this or this. You might want to suggest different ways that they can let you know that they're around. Show me a sign, give me a sign. Drop a feather at my feet. You know, lots of people in the spirit world use pennies and drop pennies at our feet to show us that they're around, or they bring butterflies around us. Anyway, so it occurred to me, sort of with Reese being sick and seeing his puppy, and then remembering how Samantha was when she was a little girl, it occurred to me that maybe, just maybe, if I ever get around to it, I should write a book, uh, and maybe a small book about what we as adults can tell our children and how we can show our children what is happening, and to educate them and to teach them in a way that is not scary and is not not overbearing, not too powerful. Another reason I've been thinking about this is that we did also have a lady on our show on Thursday who was talking about a young boy. I think this young boy was about 8 or 10 years old, and she said to me, Rosemary, I think I know what to do, and I think I know what to say, and I think I can help him. That made me so nervous for her and also for the child, because the last thing you need to do if your children or your grandchildren are having these experiences, which many of our children do, it's very common for our children to have a friend who nobody else can see but they can. I mean, I think that's the commonest. It's very, very common for our children to have a sense of things that aren't right, or have a sense of things that make them feel a little bit uncomfortable. And it's only because I think we don't understand what is going on that we do, we start to feel uncomfortable about things. So I thought maybe I should make a New Year's resolution. You see how I brought this around? And you see, Chris, how I brought this around? maybe I should make a New Year's resolution. And I'm not sure that I'm going to, but anyway, so it is in my mind, because I really think that, it's very, very important that as adults, we know, those of you who are listening, you know that there is a life after death. You know that there are those in the spirit world. You know that we don't die. You know all of that stuff. But how to sort of educate our children in a way that is natural, normal, easy for them to understand. I've always said this, we teach our children about birth, we teach our children about, not getting pregnant or getting pregnant or whatever that is. We teach all of those things. And the one thing that we in the Western world do not teach in our schools, in our educational programs, and even in our churches, the one thing that we do not teach is we do not teach our children that death is a perfectly natural, normal, and everyday occurrence. And not one of us is going to escape it. And it seems to me to be such an important thing that we try to teach our children. I know that in some of the Latin American cultures and Latin American communities, the people teach their children these things, and death is a part of life, it's a cycle of life, and so on. And I do wish in the Western world we should teach our children or have some sort of educational programs so that we know what to do with our children. So here is my daughter. She's in a bed. The bed is vibrating furiously. Luckily, I'm her mum. Luckily, she's got me. Luckily, I can explain everything to her in detail, and I can explain how things work. That doesn't mean that she wasn't terrified, because she was. But as you talk to your children and as you encourage your children to ask questions, which Samantha did, and I did, and as she got older, she had all of these questions. She actually never doubted that her grandfather was there because she'd seen him. She'd never doubted that her grandfather was there because she'd actually heard him. The very first time she did hear him, she was 6 years old, and it was not long after he had died. And she and I were cuddling in bed one morning, and she said, all of a sudden out of the room, "Mama, I can see silly grandpa. I can see silly grandpa." And I said, "Where?" And she pointed towards the ceiling. Of course, we were laying on our backs at the time, so she pointed upwards and she said, "He's there." Well, I looked, and you know, I mean, that's what I do. I didn't see him. I could not see him. He was obviously purely on her wavelength, and this is what we have to teach our children about being on the right wavelength, being on the right, you know, on the right connection. And so I said, being the doubting Thomas, and being, I've told you before, many of you, I've told you, I am the most critical and I'm the most skeptical person you could wish to meet. So, you know, she's 6 years old. Is this her imagination, or is this real? What is it? What is going on here? So for her benefit and also for my benefit, I said, all right, darling, well, if you can really see silly grandpa, I want you to ask him to tell us something that so that we'll recognize him. Really, what I was saying to her was, hey, come on, let's have some proof here. Let's get down to it. Give me, if Dad, you're really there for me and for Samantha, I want to know it. You've got to give me some proof. So I said to my daughter, just listen carefully and see if you can hear what silly grandpa is saying to you, and then you can tell me. So you could see her, and it makes me smile even today, because when I'm listening and I'm looking and I'm paying attention and I'm trying to hear what is going on with the spirit world, I have this certain look on my face, and I have this certain little, you know, sort of the angle of my head tilts, and I'm sort of focusing and concentrating, and that is exactly what Samantha was now doing. At 6 years old, she's sort of tilting her head and she's listening hard. You can hear her listening, and I could see her focusing and concentrating, and all of a sudden she said to me, "Mama," he says, "pea pie, ooh, 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 pea pie, and he keeps repeating it, keeps saying it. Well, it meant nothing to Samantha. It was just gobbledygook, but it meant everything to me. And it gave me the proof, the absolute proof, that my daughter and my father were communicating, and communicating pretty well. All right, you want to know what it meant? My father was, an avid fan of Popeye. And Popeye in England used to come on the TV. I can't remember if it was just after the news or just before the news. I think it was just after the news. So my father would always listen to the news on TV, and then straight after, he would listen to Popeye. And we had to be silent. We had to be totally silent, because that was his favourite show. And as most of you will know who know Popeye, he had a pipe, and he would puff on the pipe, and he would say, "Ooh, ooh, ooh." And he would sing Popeye, and Popeye the Sailor Man. And pea pie, ooh, ooh, pea pie, he kept saying to Samantha. How much more proof, how much more evidence can you get than that. So it is a new year. It is a new beginning. It is hopefully new and exciting times. We can have control over our lives. We can teach our children somewhat to have control over their lives. We can make things happen, but the focus of making things happen is not so easy, which is why we're doing this seminar on Thursday. But moving past that, what was the end of this story that I'm telling you about my child with the bed vibrating and so on? Well, as those of you who are Native Americans will know, there's never a beginning of a story and there's never an end of a story. The beginning of the story might have happened 100 years before with the telling of a story by one of the grandfathers, and has continued and continued, and there is never an ending, and life continues on and passes from our children to our grandchildren to our great grandchildren, and life just continues on. Now, although I do believe that we should say once upon a time, and I always say the end, because it is a way of winding down from the story, it's not really the final end. It's only the end of this part of the story, and the beginning of the next part will evolve, even as this particular day goes on, when I give my grandson healing again and he asks me for rainbows. So I'm not making a New Year's resolution to write a book, but I do think it's needed, and now I've said it, I'm sure Chris is going to poke and prod me until I've done something about it. But when you listen to the stories and you listen to your children and you have children who are experiencing these things, try, if you can, not to make a drama of it. This is what I tried with my daughter, not to make a drama of it, but to treat it as a natural part of life and of living. So, you know, when she came running into me and said, I've just seen Silly Grandpa, I've just seen Silly Grandpa, my reaction is, oh, good. And I get hold of her, I sit her on my knee, do you want to tell me about it? If she says no, it's the end of it. Leave it alone. If she wants to tell you more, if your children want to tell you more, listen to them. Try not to comment too much. Try not to put ideas into their heads about what they're seeing or what they believe. You need your children to grow up believing for themselves, deciding for themselves, and experiencing for themselves. So that's what my daughter did. And so consequently, every time she sensed something, or every time she felt something particularly strongly, like, I see you broken down at the traffic lights, Mum, well, thank you very much, child. And yes, an hour later, I was broken down at the traffic lights. Or, I don't like that person, Mummy. I think they're not who they really seem to be. And sure enough, you know, it turns out that it might take you a month, it might take you a year to discover they're right, but children have a knowing sense of things. So don't pile the responsibility onto them by making this a big thing in their lives. Treat it as natural and easy and everyday, which is what I try to do with my daughter, and I am now. You see, the story is continuing. There is no end to it, is there? The story is continuing. As I did with my daughter, we're now doing with my grandson, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that many of you out there will listen to your children, and listen to them when they tell you things, when they sense things, when they're aware of things. Just pay attention to them. Let them know you're paying attention to them. Talk to them about it. Let them talk to you about it, but don't make a big thing out of it, because otherwise it could get a bit spooky and unnecessarily cause dramas and make our kids afraid of what's going on. I don't know where this story, we did begin the story once upon a time, so I will say the end. And now let's have some questions and comments. Chris, do you have any questions and comments, Chris?
Well, I think it's
I can hear you. I'm cutting you off on the phone.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad.
Yay!
All right. Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, Rosemary, and you're right. I probably will be poking and prodding, but I had a person I know very well over the weekend send me pictures of someone that she knows well whose child was laying in the crib, and they have one of those monitoring cameras, and they were capturing orbs on the camera, and at different times during the day, orbs around the child when the child was playing. And I know we've had many questions like that pop up in our chat room over the year. So that I think there's a lot of people who could be helped by you writing that book.
Well, I'm not making any promises, and I'm certainly not making a New Year's resolution that I'm going to do it. But I'll make it. My resolution will be that I'll try. How about that?
That's all we can do. You have a whole lot of people on wishing you a happy new year and sending you rainbows and smiley faces and celebration confetti and all kinds of things like that.
Oh, good. I'm pleased. I'm very, very pleased. Well, and the same back to all of you out there. You know, we do love doing these shows because we know that a lot of people get a lot out of it. But I do thank you very much for supporting us in the last year. I know how difficult it's been for everyone. The year has been a tough year. The last year has been a tough year, and so we're coming into this new year with smiley faces and a lot of hope and a lot of a lot of hope and a lot of wishes and a lot of dreams. And we're going to do our very best. I'm certainly on Thursday going to do my very best to help you to somehow, let's say, influence by your energy, and by developing the right energy. I'm going to hopefully help you to influence your hopes, your wishes, and your dreams in coming to fruition. Right, Chris.
Are you ready for your first question or comment?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
All right, Mark is on.
Good morning, Mark.
He says, my new year resolution is to promote inner spiritual world peace, and I'm starting a sugar detox for 21 days.
Oh, right. Ooh, gosh. Ooh. Uh, I would love to be able to join you, but I made my famous Victorian trifle yesterday, so there's no chance I'm joining you until I've eaten that. That's for sure. Sorry.
So he also says, question for Gray Eagle. Today in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there is a spirit fair taking place, and I need to know if Gray Eagle has any advice and message from my spirit guide and G, my angel, what I should do. I'm on the fence with this.
Yeah, and you should be. If I were you, that's where I would sit, Mark. All right. So I have only a couple of times attended these sorts of things. Common sense is definitely required, and an attitude of feet on the ground, common sense. We know that there are so many people out there who are really nice people and totally believe in what they're doing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. We also know that there are many people out there who are charlatans, who just are out there to make money. If you buy this token, you can do this, and if you buy that, you can do so and so and such and such. I find these fairs to be somewhat intriguing because I never thought there were so many different ways that you could exploit a person's hopes and needs. And affairs like this, sometimes intentionally, but very often not intentionally, do exploit. They absolutely exploit the needs of people. Now, some of you out there may say, oh, it's only a bit of fun. And you're right, it is only a bit of fun. Except that every now and again, you'll get someone who considers that it isn't a bit of fun. You get someone out there who is very needy or really needs help. You can get someone out there who is extremely easily influenced and is told things that can frighten them and scare them. And unfortunately, I'm one of those people who has to clean up after the damage has been done. So go, if you think it's just a bit of fun, off you go. I can tell you that little seeds are dangerous things. And if you listen to people, I mean, it's amazing to me. I tell you what is really amazing to me with these things is that a total stranger, excuse me, a total stranger who has, you know, no credentials or honest credentials, just because they put up on the board behind them, you know, that they've spoke, that they're the, what is it? One of the famous phrases is psychic to the stars, or you know, they hype themselves up. It doesn't mean that it's true. So you know, you just have to just be critical and be cynical about it, because a lot of these people are just out there to take advantage of you. Little seeds are dangerous things, and it amazes me that you get a complete stranger will say something to you which, and there's no verification for it, there's no background to it, there's no reason why they would say it to you, and yet people absorb it and believe it, and it can eat away at you. For instance, you know, let's say somebody says to you, oh, you know, I see you, you know, very sick in February, blah blah blah, and February comes and goes and you're not very sick at all, and you think to yourself, well, maybe she meant March, or maybe she meant April, and you're still on the edge there with all of that. And then, you know, the year progresses, and then you think, gosh, I wonder if she meant next February. And on, these little seeds, they're like little worms that burrow inside of your head and create fears and concerns and anxieties where you shouldn't have them. So if you can think of it as a bit of fun, knock yourself out, go ahead and do it. Who am I to tell you not to go? But do be careful, everybody. Do watch yourselves, and do take what you're being told with a pinch of salt. Yes, Chris.
Morenza says, hello, darling, from Warsaw, Poland. Much
Hello,
love and
darling.
light.
Sorry?
Much love and light for the new year 2021 and always. Thank you, and hearts and joyful hugs.
Oh, thank you, darling. I appreciate it.
Betta's asking, hi, Rosemary, good Saturday. I
Good morning.
wonder if one of my relatives has something to tell me. If it is not possible, if it is not possible, no problem. I'm happy all the same.
Betta, we love having you on the shows, and we know we call you one of our regulars, which we do love. But unfortunately today I'm not getting anything for you. So sorry, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep trying.
All right. Still so many people wishing well. All right. Muriel is asking,
Good morning, Muriel.
why is it that I have these sensations at the level of my heart as if a lock had been placed there, depending on whom I'm interacting with or what I'm doing? Can you please explain to me if it is appropriate, as this has been unsettling for me?
It's not quite. We need a much longer conversation, but from what you're saying, and from what Greg is saying to me also, it sounds as if you are very, maybe on a subconscious level, that you're very protective of yourself. It's possible that you've been hurt, or that you've been fooled, or you've had, you know, a friendship which has, you know, destroyed your confidence and trust in your own self and your own ability to judge. And I do feel that, you know, from what you're describing, it sounds as if your heart chakra, that energy, that little spot of energy there around your heart, it sounds to me as if when you are nervous about something, or if you're meeting somebody new or somebody, it seems as if your energy is such that it's telling you something, and you should always pay attention to it, because sometimes it's saying to you, this is okay, you're okay. But sometimes, and you'll know the difference, you will know the difference. Sometimes, if you feel anxiety with it, it's telling you that this situation or this person is maybe not okay, and you should be a little bit more cautious. So pay attention to what your body is telling you. Absolutely. And yes, it is appropriate. And I think so many people out there probably thinking, gosh, I wish that would happen to me, so that I could be more, sort of discerning. And so allow those feelings to help you to be more discerning in your situations as they arise through the days. Chris.
All right. Maggie is commenting on your story with Samantha.
Morning,
My number
Maggie.
my number 2 daughter woke terrified when hearing small hearing voices. I asked for them to leave her alone. She never heard them. I think I did her a disservice, as she now can't hear her sister. And although my grandson, when little, heard my daughter and knew her, but I think because of his dad's side making fun of him, he's losing his ability.
Well, I don't think, Maggie, that you did her necessarily disservice. You did what you felt you needed to do at the time. Um, but what could have happened, and had you known differently, sort of woulda, coulda, shoulda, if we'd have known differently. In hindsight, we're all much wiser than of course we are in the moment. But I think a conversation after that to explain to her, perhaps, that these are voices from those who love her in the spirit world, and sort of put her at ease with it and help her feel more comfortable with it. So having that conversation with our children is I think important. So I don't think you did anything wrong, but I think you could have done, let's say, better had you known to do better. And this is my point. Maybe I really should get that book written. Who probably should get on with it. All right, Chris, keep going.
Mark said, my niece had the same incident with her daughter and helped her explain they were visiting and wanted to say hello.
Yes.
She was visited by my grandparents and her great great granddads.
Oh, lovely. And again, Mark, you're saying exactly what I've just been saying, to have a conversation afterwards and to help our children to understand what is happening, rather than to sort of just, dismiss it. We're afraid, aren't we? We're afraid for our children. We're afraid what's going on. She's hearing voices. We're afraid and we're protective. So I think it's important. Of course, you should be a little bit afraid, a little bit nervous anyway, because we don't quite know what's going on. You should be protective, but being protective means having that further conversation.
Cheryl says, when I was a child, I felt cold spots in a warm room. My mom said it was spirits. She had her own abilities, but couldn't explain very well. It always fascinated me.
Well, now, hopefully, now you know what's going on. How nice. I think we have to remember that our children are very, very sensitive, and teenagers particularly, when they start to sort of, their hormones start to go a little awry, and of course this happens with girls sooner than it happens with boys. But that also is a time that we need to watch, because basically our energy, our body's energy, is changing. We've become more sensitive. We've become more susceptible to noticing and to hearing things and being aware of things. So young children, absolutely, because it's just natural to them. It's a natural ability to them. But then teenagers also, when they start out, their hormones start to change and their level of energy starts to change. That is often a time when they become more open and become more aware of things beyond the ordinary.
Medi says, Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you so much for everything that you do. God bless.
Oh,
Namaste.
thank you. Namaste. Thank you. Yep. Keep going, Chris.
Eric says, Happy New Year. Please do write about this. Your story reminded me of experiences I've had. This has helped me to help myself get back to more positive again after so much stuff going on.
Well, Eric, Happy New Year to you, my darling. And I did get your message, by the way. So happy New Year to you. And thank you for your good wishes for my family. You know, maybe, Chris, we should put it out there that, or for those of you who have a story, or if you know of someone who has a story about a childhood experience or a childhood incident, wouldn't that be interesting to also put into the book? So, you know, to explain the certain circumstances, we could have made them differently, or done differently, made them better, made them easier, or explained more. And I think that hearing other people's stories would be, and then putting other people's stories in the book as well would be, you know, it's all very well, all these words, you know, talk doesn't mean a lot, does it? Unless you've got the experience to back up these things. And I would love to hear of people's stories, and people's stories of when they were children, or their even they as their with their own children or with their grandchildren. If you have had one of these experiences, or anyone in your family has had one of these experiences, we would love to hear about it. If you're going to email in these things, could you do us a small favor as you go along with this? Can you put in a simple line, I give you permission to use this story. If you don't want us to use it, then say, you cannot use it. In fact, don't bother sending it in to me, because there are so many that we get. But if you don't mind your own story being printed there, we won't use your full name. We might use your first name, or if you prefer, just say, you know, just refer to me as Jack or John or Jill or whoever, and we can do that as well. But we would love to have some of those stories, so that if I do decide to write one of these books, I feel as if I'm being boxed into a corner here. If I do decide to write this book, then it would be wonderful to have other people's experiences as well. Yes, Chris.
Serena says, I love that you are speaking about this. My son used to tell me that he could see angels around me. I try to be careful about how I respond when they bring these things up. Thank you for your advice and guidance. I will try not to comment too much when my children bring up their fears and observations. I usually tell them that they are always loved and protected.
Well, this is the one thing, the one message I think that we have to give to our children, is that they are loved, and that their angels are around them. My grandson will often see things, and it's sort of so. I mean, he's 7 years old now. He'll be 8 in February. But since he was very small, since he could talk, since he could properly communicate, he's sort of said things that sort of have made me wonder, and maybe to acknowledge to my own self, oh yes, okay, then you know, yes, he does see these things, and he can see these things. But I'm still critical, I'm still skeptical, and I think we all should be. And I'm also very, very cautious with him. I'm not going to say to him, and you too can be like me. You know, one day you'll be a medium like Mosey. I'm not going to say those things, because whether it's true or not, he's his own person, and he has to make up his own mind about these things, and he has to do things in his own time. And it's not for me to push or to shove or to force an issue. So we just have regular, ordinary conversations. But you see, in my world, in my life, it's normal. It's just a normal part of the process. Um, we the other day we had a friend of my daughter's, a neighbour friend of my daughter's over, and we were actually watching a sort of a bit of a horror movie. And they're not really horror movies to me. It's just, you know, sometimes ridiculous, and I laugh because it's so ridiculous. And every now and again, you know, but my daughter won't watch anything like this unless I'm around. And the neighbour, I had to laugh, started to get a bit spooked as well. And I'm laughing at them both because, you know, there wasn't anything really to get worried about. But my daughter said to the neighbour at one point during the evening, it's all very well for you. I grew up with this stuff. I've seen things, I've heard things, I've grown up, I know they're real. And, and I'm thinking to myself, well, shouldn't that make you feel less nervous? And in some ways it does make her feel less nervous, but in other ways, especially if you're watching a spooky movie, I suppose your imagination can carry you away. Um, just talk about things in a normal, regular voice. Don't say, well, I think this and this and this is happening to you. Or don't say to your kids, oh, well, the reason for you saying that is because so, because you don't know. You absolutely don't know. Even I, who knows so many things, I don't always know why suddenly my grandson should see something, or my daughter should see something or hear something. And as I told in the story, when my daughter saw her silly grandpa, she could see him clearly, and she obviously heard him clearly. And he gave absolute proof that it was him. I couldn't see him. Me, who sees them, I could not see him because he had not chosen to be on my wavelength. He'd chosen to be on Samantha's wavelength. So no matter how much you think you know, just keep your opinions to yourself. Talk to them in a normal, natural way. Wait until they ask you. I always say, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. Well, the student is ready when the student asks the right questions. So wait until your children ask the questions before you dive in there and fill their heads with your beliefs. Yes, Chris.
We're getting near time, so there's just a couple more questions.
Okay.
Maggie's got a comment. Someone told me about this guy pretending to be a crow chief and shaman. I had a strong feeling it was fake. I told her to be careful, but she still followed this guy's practices.
Well, we have to make our own choices, and if she chooses to believe that he is not a fake, there's nothing you can do about it, is there really? But it's her choice. And people come at me all the time, you shouldn't do this, what you're doing is against God, and so on and so forth. Well, people have their own opinions. You have your opinion of this guy, and your friend has another opinion of this guy. My opinion of what I do is, I totally trust in God. I totally trust in that God force. And I totally believe that if I was not supposed to be doing this, he'd have hauled me out of here a long time ago. So, you can't do anything about other people's beliefs and belief systems, and you should be respectful enough, which I know, Maggie, you are. You should be respectful enough to allow other people their own beliefs and their own belief systems. Yes, Chris.
Ginger says, "Hello, Rosemary. I
Hi,
love
Ginger.
I love that I have found you again after many years of reading your first book.
Oh,
My question is, I have so many stories in my head over the years, but writing them down, I do well to a point and then get a block. Why? Or what can I do to change that?"
well, we all have our stories, Ginger, and I think that often we get a block if we are emotionally affected by these things, if we're emotionally traumatized by our stories and our situations. And so, each person has to find their own way through them without knowing more about you, without being able to talk to you. I'm afraid, it's difficult for me to say what it is that you can do, but I think it's the blocks that we get are those emotional blocks. It's almost as if we're saying, no, I don't want to go there. The subconscious is saying, no, I don't want to go there, I don't want to go there. When we do our ambitions board, one of the things that we can think about is, what is it that we want to do? Who is it we want to be? What is it that we want to achieve? And often, like our New Year's resolutions, often the block is that emotional blockage that we have that takes us so far. What happens if we become successful? And emotionally, or on some level, on some subconscious level, we're afraid to become successful. We're afraid to be who we are, because either we've been told that we can never be anything worth anything, or because being something or being successful can change your life. And as awful as your life might be, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. So sort of having ambitions but being able to see them through and to allow your subconscious that to unblock the subconscious is the most important thing. Yes, Chris.
All right, one last question. Giuseppe. Hi, Rosemary. Big kisses from Sicily.
Hi,
I'm
Giuseppe. How are you?
I'm trying hard to find my faith. I'm 23 years old. I can't find God. What can you tell me? Hugs.
Hugs back to you. Well, you just said you couldn't find God, but didn't you just find him right there? You're, you are such a gentle person. You are obviously wanting and needing some spiritual guidance, but you already have it. When you say to me, hugs to me, isn't that little bit of light, that little bit of that God force within you, which is expressing itself? God does not have to come to us always in the big boom, the big bang, the big, sort of amazing revelation. God sits quietly within us, and Giuseppe, I think God sits quietly within you. And you just have to darling, just be yourself and just be kind and loving as you obviously are. And God does not even need to have a face. It doesn't even need to have a presence, a big, strong presence. God can be the quietest, smallest voice within you, but is always there. And sending me hugs, I heard God through your voice. I heard God through your energy. So you don't need to search for him, darling. You don't need to seek him out. He's already within you. I think what you have to do is you have to learn to trust you, to be strong for you, and to be strong for yourself. Again, I would like to say to everybody, God does not necessarily show himself in the big bang and the big boom. He does not necessarily come and stand in front of us and say, hey there, this is God. He often comes quietly. He comes quietly within us. He is present within us from the moment we are born. We can try to get rid of him. We can try to destroy him. We can try to deny him. For all of you out there who don't believe in God, keep going at it. Keep trying to deny him. But in one moment when you need him the most and you are the most desperate and you find yourself praying when you never thought you would, there is God still ever present within you. Giuseppe, you are filled with the light of God. Stop looking. He's right there within you. Right, Chris. Well, this is the last of the first, the second day of the new year, but the first of our first story times in 2021. So my wish for you all, my hopes for you all are that for whatever it is that you want, and excuse me, I'm going to put that there. My hope is that for whatever it is that you wish you want, whatever it is that you wish you could do, whatever it is that you wish you could be, have faith in yourself, because with a little effort and with a little knowledge, you can be just exactly whoever it is you want to be. And remember this also. Whoever you are, it's enough. You don't have to be more. You don't have to be bigger. You don't have to be better. It is enough. You look at a beggar on the street, and I did this before Christmas. I was walking along the street, and there was a homeless man sitting on the pavement. And as I walked past, he looked up at me and smiled. And I remembered Grey Eagle's words, and I remembered the words that we'd spoken in our angel webinar. Your angel could be the beggar on the street. Your angel could be that little snot-nosed kid running around shoeless and ragged clothes. Your angel could be that smelly old lady sitting on the bus next to you. Your angels are everywhere, and they come disguised. And again, they don't necessarily come so that you will say, oh my gosh, there's an angel. You don't have to recognize them to know that they are there. But our angels touch us in every way possible. So within this next year, gosh, can you believe we've all survived 2020? Can you believe that we've actually survived it? Yes, we've had traumas. Yes, we've had tears. Yes, we've had difficulties. Yes, many of us have lost someone dear to us. But we've survived it, and we'll survive this next year too. But if we're going to survive it, let's survive it with our angels surrounding us, shall we? Let's survive it with the light of God surrounding us, shall we? Let's just survive it in the best way and the most positive way that we can. Now, I know that some of you have been asking, where do we get tickets for the Thursday event? Go to, Chris, did you put up the thing? Is that what I'm seeing there?
Yes.
Or you can go to my website, rosemaryaltea.com. Go there anyway, whatever it is you want to do. Go and take a look, because there are some little snippets of movies, little snippets from our webinars here and there. There's all sorts of things going on the website. So rosemaryaltea.com, all one word, and you'll go to my website, which is great. Chris is managing it beautifully. My daughter's designed it and helping to manage it. I mean, really, come on, go take a look. It's great. And also, don't forget, please, would you share? I always get told off. My daughter says to me all the time, you should be saying share, mother. So I'm saying share. Please share if you've enjoyed today, if you've enjoyed the morning, you've enjoyed what you've heard. Please share it with your friends, with your family, with anybody you can think of, because we're trying to spread the word out there. Are there angels? You betcha. Did Grey Eagle talk to us in the angel webinar? You betcha. Powerful stuff, and he's going to be doing it again, so keep watching, keep looking out for us. Check the website, and if you would like, we won't put you on the mailing list unless you ask, but if you want to, you must email me, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com, or Chris at rosemaryaltea.com, and ask people to on the mailing list, and that's what we'll do. Until next time, which is it's Thursday. Thursday's a full day. We'll be doing the Spirit World Sees All on Thursday morning for all of you, and at 2:00 Eastern Standard Time, we'll be doing our ambitions, whatever that is, ambitions webinar. Go get your tickets. If there's only one of you, just imagine that there's only one of you, and it's just you and me. Wouldn't that be fun? Right. And I don't mind how many of you there are. So we're doing one on Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're also doing another one at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So go to the web page, or click on the link that Chris just sent you, and hopefully I'll see you then. So Thursday is going to be a busy day. The Spirit World Sees All in the morning, Ambitions Board at 2, Ambitions Board at 7. Oh, and then after that, I think maybe I'll take a nap and go to bed and have a nice snooze. See what an exciting first week that you're going to be having in the new year this year. Bye-bye, everybody. Please, all of you out there, have a very, very blessed rest of the day, and have a very blessed rest of the weekend. Thank you for